The warm, noisy restaurant suddenly felt cold. Laughter echoed around the table, but it wasn't the kind that made you smile. It was sharp, directed at me. My brother, Jax, leaned back in his chair, a smug grin on his face. He had just finished his favorite party trick, mocking me. "Come on, everyone," he said, waving his wine glass. "We all know Arya pretends to have some fancy office job. But has anyone ever actually seen her office? She's probably just working some temp gig and is too embarrassed to say." My cheeks burned. I looked at my parents. My dad studied his plate intently. My mom gave me a weak, apologetic smile. They never stopped him. The rest of our extended family chuckled awkwardly, not wanting to become his next target. I felt small, shrinking under the weight of their stares. I swallowed my pride, smiled, and decided right there I'd let Jax choke on his own arrogance. The drive home was silent except for the hum of the engine. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A text from my aunt. "Don't let him get to you, sweetie. You're doing great." Pity. That's what it was. It made the anger in my stomach churn even hotter. The truth was, I had left a terrible toxic job 6 months ago. I kept it quiet, not wanting the family gossip. I'd found a new position at a good mid-sized firm called Apex Solutions. I was rebuilding my life, piece by piece. Jax had no idea. He was too busy being the star of every family event. I pulled into my apartment's parking lot and took a deep breath. Then I checked my phone. An email from HR at Apex had just arrived. My heart jumped. The email was from Gwen in HR. A leadership position had opened up. Team lead for strategic operations. It was a big step up, with more responsibility and a significant pay raise. My current boss, Mr. Albright, stopped by my desk the next morning. "Arya, I've put your name forward," he said, his kind eyes crinkling. "You're one of our hardest workers. You should apply." I was flattered but nervous. Was I ready? Later, making dinner, I replayed Jax's mocking words from the dinner. His smirk fueled a new fire in me. That night, I opened the application form. I filled out every section with care. Before I could second-guess myself, I clicked submit. A sense of calm determination washed over me. Little did I know, my brother would soon apply for the same job. The family gossip mill was always turning. Through my cousin, I learned the real reason for Jax's recent nastiness. His can't-fail business venture, a flashy marketing startup, had collapsed. He'd lost a lot of his own money and a chunk of our parents' savings. He'd been telling everyone he was exploring new leadership opportunities, playing the victim of a bad economy. Mocking me was his way of distracting everyone from his own failure. During our weekly phone call, my mom said, "Did you hear? Jax has a big interview this week, at some impressive company. Apex Solutions, I think he said." The name hit me like a physical blow. I nearly dropped the phone. That was my company. I sat at my desk, my heart pounding. I opened my work email and searched the internal job portal. There it was, the listing for the team lead position, and in the applicant tracking system which I had access to for scheduling, I saw it. His name, Jax Vance. My brother had applied for my job. Well, the job I wanted. My hands trembled. He didn't know I worked here. I'd gotten married 2 years ago and taken my husband's last name, Sullivan. To Jax, I was still Arya Vance. He had never bothered to learn my married name. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Then a new email popped up. It was from Gwen. I was being assigned to the interview panel. A war raged inside me. Part of me wanted to call HR immediately and explain the clear conflict of interest. It would get me removed from the panel. It was the easy, professional thing to do. But another part of me, the part that was tired of being his punchline, saw the poetic justice. I hadn't planned this. Fate had handed me this opportunity. I decided I wouldn't sabotage him. I would be fair, professional, and let his own record speak for itself. But I wouldn't run from the situation either. I emailed Gwen back, "Thank you for the opportunity. I'll be there." If fate wanted me in that interview room, I wasn't going to walk away. That weekend, we gathered for my niece's birthday. Jax was holding court again. "This Apex role is perfect for me," he announced to a group of relatives. "A real executive position. It's what I've been working toward." He then glanced at me across the yard. "Once I'm settled, Arya, maybe I can help you find a more stable job. That little apartment of yours can't be cheap." Everyone looked at me. I simply took a sip of my lemonade and gave a small, knowing smile. "You'll see soon enough," I thought. Jax, misreading my silence for shame, puffed out his chest. When I get that job, I'll finally show people what success really looks like. Back at work on Monday, I prepared. I pulled Jax's resume and application. As I read it, my eyebrows rose. He had taken major credit for projects at his failed company, implying he was the sole driver of their brief success. His listed responsibilities were wildly inflated. I did my due diligence. I contacted a few old clients mentioned in his application, posing as a standard HR verification. Their feedback was polite but clear. Jax was a big talker, but his follow-through was lacking. I wasn't gathering this to use against him unfairly, but to ensure the panel had the full picture. My boss, Mr. Albright, stuck his head in my office. "You'll lead the questioning for this final round, Arya. We trust your instincts the most." The night before the interview, I couldn't sleep. Memories flashed behind my eyes. Jax presenting our shared science fair project as his own. Jax joking about my messy divorce at a family dinner. Jax constantly calling me the family's creative disappointment because I chose a business career over something more artistic. Every put-down, every smirk, every time my parents failed to defend me. The weight of years of being underestimated settled on me. But this time, it felt different. It felt like fuel. I stared at the ceiling, my resolve hardening. This wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. Tomorrow, I stopped being his punching bag. The interview room was quiet and modern, with a large window overlooking the city. I sat at the head of the polished table, Gwen from HR on my right. My posture was perfect, my calm demeanor practiced. We were reviewing the first candidate's file when there was a soft knock. Gwen called, "Come in." The door opened, and Jax walked in. He looked every bit the confident candidate in his best suit, a slight smirk playing on his lips. He started his rehearsed greeting, his eyes scanning the room. Then they landed on me. The smirk vanished. The color drained from his face so completely I thought he might faint. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The silence in the room was deafening. Jax just stood there, frozen. Gwen, confused by the pause, finally said, "Mr. Vance? Please have a seat." He stumbled forward and practically fell into the chair opposite me. He couldn't stop staring. I gave him a small, professional smile. "Good morning, Mr. Vance. I'm Arya Sullivan, team lead on the project you'd be overseeing. This is Gwen from HR." I kept my voice level and cool. "Let's begin. Could you walk us through a time you managed a significant project budget?" He stammered, his answers disjointed and nervous. He was completely thrown off his game. He kept looking at me, waiting for a trap. For once, the power shift was in my hands. I continued the interview with detached professionalism. I asked fair, challenging questions about team management and strategic planning. The other candidates had answered with clarity. Jax's answers were vague, full of buzzwords but lacking substance. He was so rattled he could barely form a coherent sentence. When the hour was up, he left quickly, avoiding my eyes. Afterward, Gwen turned to me. "Well, that was strange. His resume looked strong, but he couldn't back any of it up. You were very composed, Arya." Mr. Albright agreed later. "He's not getting the job. The decision is clear. But," he added, looking at me thoughtfully, "something tells me you should prepare for the next step." He was referring to my own promotion announcement. That evening, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Jax was already there, holding a glass of wine and talking loudly. "The interview, it went amazing," he declared. "I really connected with the panel. I'm confident an offer is coming." My mom beamed, giving him a hug. "We're so proud of you, son." They all turned to me, expecting me to be jealous or upset. I just smiled politely and helped set the table. Jax shot me a look of pure triumph, believing he had somehow recovered from his shock and aced the interview. He had no idea that the promotion panel for the job I had applied for was meeting the next day. Because the truth was, tomorrow's announcement would change everything. The next afternoon, Mr. Albright called me into his office. "Congratulations, Arya," he said, a genuine smile on his face. "The job is yours. Effective immediately, you are the new director of operations." I felt a surge of pure joy and relief. My hard work had paid off. HR updated the company website and my LinkedIn profile with the new title and a professional headshot. I didn't have to wait long. A few hours later, my phone started blowing up. Texts from cousins, friends, old colleagues, "OMG, Director of Operations, congrats." Then, the call started. It was my mom. Her voice was tight with confusion. Arya, Jax is here. He's very upset. He saw your picture online. 2 days later, I was in my new, larger office when the door flew open without a knock. Jax stood there, his face twisted in anger. You set me up, he hissed, slamming the door shut behind him. You humiliated me on purpose. You couldn't stand to see me succeed. I slowly placed my pen down and looked at him, my expression calm. I didn't set you up, Jax. You walked in by yourself. You applied for a job at a company you never bothered to learn I worked for. He sputtered, calling me vindictive and jealous. I let him finish, then I simply said no, just qualified. The fallout escalated. Jax ran to our parents, spinning a tale about how I had orchestrated the whole thing to destroy his career. At a tense family dinner, my mom initially took his side. Arya, couldn't you have just excused yourself from the interview? You knew how much he needed this. That was the final straw. I opened my tablet and pulled up the file. I showed them the discrepancies in his resume. I showed them the notes from my reference checks that contradicted his stories. The room went deathly quiet. My mom's face fell. She looked at Jax, her voice a whisper. You forged references? You lied to them? For the first time in our lives, I saw the scales tip. The family's perception of Jax, the golden boy, cracked. They saw the arrogance and the insecurity that festered beneath the surface. My dad finally spoke, his voice heavy with disappointment. Is this true, son? Jax had no answer. He just glared at me. I didn't say, I told you so. I didn't gloat. I simply wiped my mouth, placed my napkin on the table, and stood up. Thank you for dinner, I said, my dignity intact. I walked out, leaving them to sit with the truth. The audience felt both my pain and my power. In the weeks that followed, a different kind of attention came my way. Messages flooded in from family and old friends who had seen the news about my promotion on social media or in the local business journal, which had done a small feature on rising executives. They were genuinely proud. So inspiring, Arya. Meanwhile, Jax's carefully constructed image crumbled. The truth about his failed interview and the lies on his resume spread through his social circle. He lost another potential job opportunity when the new company did a more thorough background check. His own friends started to see the real him. Jax spiraled. He started drinking too much, and his rants about me became more unhinged. He blamed me for everything. I refused to engage. I blocked his angry texts and focused on my new role. I found great satisfaction in mentoring new hires, especially young women who reminded me of myself, quiet, capable, but often overlooked. I made sure they felt seen and heard. Helping them succeed became my quiet redemption, a way to heal the parts of me he had once broken. Months later, Jax showed up at my apartment one evening. He looked tired and defeated. Look, Arya, he began, shoving his hands in his pockets. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for what I said. But you have to understand the pressure I was under. The business failing, I was desperate. It was an apology, but it was full of excuses, still making his actions my fault. I listened quietly until he finished. Then I said, you don't need to apologize for what you said, Jax. Just stop being the person who says it. He stared at me, finally speechless, and turned to leave. Another half-year passed. Our company was expanding, opening a new branch. I was tasked with hiring a consulting partner to lead the initial setup. To my complete lack of surprise, an application landed on my desk. It was from Jax. He was clearly desperate for any foothold. I felt a pang of something, not pity, but a weary recognition of his persistence. I didn't reject him out of hand. I forwarded his application to HR with a neutral note, following standard procedure. A few days later, HR emailed me their decision. We found another candidate for the consulting role. Much stronger fit and better cultural alignment. We had a big family holiday gathering. Jax was there, but he was quieter, more reserved. The arrogant swagger was gone. He helped in the kitchen without being asked. During a lull in the conversation, he looked across the room at me, cleared his throat, and said, So, Arya, how is the new branch project going? I heard it's a big deal. Everyone stopped to listen. It was his way of publicly acknowledging my success, of admitting defeat without saying the words. I smiled, a genuine one this time. It's going very well. Thank you, Jax. I accepted his unspoken concession with grace. I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already won. Later, I reflected on the whole journey. It taught me that my self-worth was never something my family, especially Jax, could give or take away. It was mine to build. Chasing his approval or even wanting his respect was a waste of energy. My peace, my dignity, and the quality of my work were the most important things. Letting go of the need to prove myself to him was the most freeing feeling I had ever experienced. My success was my revenge, but the peace that followed was my reward. I learned a powerful lesson through all of this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying the other person. It's not about screaming matches or public takedowns. True victory is moving forward so gracefully and successfully that you show them, without a single word, that you never needed them to rise. You show them that their doubt was merely a stepping stone you used to climb higher. Their negativity becomes background noise to your symphony of success. A year later, a young intern named Brooke was in my office, her eyes bright with frustration. "My older brother just told me I'll never make it in this industry," she confessed. "He says I should just quit." I looked at her, seeing my younger self in her worried face. I smiled, a calm, knowing smile born of experience. I thought of Jax, of the dinner table, of the interview room. I leaned forward, my voice gentle but firm. "If someone doubts you, let them," I told her. "Just make sure that when they finally see you again, it's from the other side of the desk."